public hearing this evening, and like I said, we are waiting to see if Mr. Swayze, our Integrity Commissioner, will be joining us to present his report. But until he decides to join us or is able to join us, we will move on with the consent agenda. Is there anything in the consent agenda that anyone would like severed? Okay, I'll need a mover and a seconder for the consent agenda motion. Okay, so Councillor Malott and Councillor Foster, I saw your hands go up. Okay, so I see that Mr. Swayze has entered the room. So we will go back to the consent agenda after we have Mr. Swayze's presentation. So good evening and welcome. I think he's still connecting. Mr. Swayze, can you hear me? Okay, you are on mute.
Mute.
There you are. Now you are unmuted.
How's that?
That's perfect. We can hear you. So welcome. Thanks for joining us again this evening. And we do have a copy of your presentation or a copy of your report. So I don't know if you wanted to take us through anything on your report or whether you just are open for questions.
Well, I'm certainly open to questions, Madam Mayor, and I'll be very brief. I have repeatedly tried to explain to Councillor Van Alstyne that she cannot criticize staff in public meetings. If she wants to criticize staff, she has to ask the clerk for a closed meeting in camera, and she can deal with it in that. And I would not be critical of that. But I presented a report on September the 8th, and her comments in response to my report were critical of the CAO, Ms. Townsend. So there was a report in camera, which was years ago, before she even joined the council, that she mentioned, and she shouldn't have. It was in camera. She called video surveillance that was illegal, which she said that jobs were not advertised. I've investigated whether jobs were advertised, and they were very adequately advertised. I don't know what to do except to say to Councillor Van Alstyne, I'm going to recommend 60 days on this occasion, and each time you keep criticizing staff in a public meeting, I'm going to ask for another 60 days. So those are my submissions. I'm quite happy to answer any questions.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for our Integrity Commissioner? Councillor Dufour?
Yes, I have. You mentioned here the dealing with video surveillance. Is that correct?
That was the second point she made in that meeting, yes.
Okay, it wasn't really the video, though, that was being complained about at the time. It was something other than that. It was the audio that we were dealing with at that time. You're not allowed to have audio and start audio taping everybody in certain places. So, I mean, that was the item there.
I understood that the CAO was dealing with some provincial regulators, and she looked into it was video surveillance that was supposed to happen at the municipality. She instituted something, but then she found out that it wasn't appropriate. But in any event, she complied with the regulations that applied to video surveillance, And whether it was audio, I thought it was video, but in any event, don't criticize a member of staff in open council. It's contrary to the code of conduct. And I hope I've made that point to Councillor Van Alstyne.
I do have a question, and it's kind of in reference to the motion that we will be dealing with later. The motion, let me just take a look at it here. It states that the suspension of 60 days of compensation commencing with the next pay period. Currently, Councillor Van Alstyne's next pay period would be December 2020. She is currently under a salary suspension. So would you recommend that that suspension be served concurrently or starting in December 20th when she's actually going to be receiving?
No, my intent was the next pay period after the suspension stops from the previous recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dufour.
I wasn't done yet. I was just trying to get permission to talk further.
Sorry, I apologize. Continue.
No, it's all right. I just wanted to let you know. Yes. Okay. About the audio recording, you had said something about that, and you said you weren't aware that it was the audio, it was the video that was spoken.
I thought it was audio, video, both.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the video is okay. The video is not against the law to do. You can put that in any building, but you can't use audio with the video in other buildings, like in public buildings. Okay. Unless there's a reason for it, and that reason would have to be handed down either by like a certain authority, probably a judge, and it would be for a certain purpose and only for that purpose. Okay. And that's all that went on that night. And I see some other stuff here too that I just can't really make heads or tails of, because I don't know, it just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot to it. I mean, you might have saw something else I'm not seeing, but I don't see a whole lot here. And for 2 more months of non-pay, I don't know, sir. I think, I don't know, it's pretty bad.
Council can make that decision.
I think the point is that Councillor Van Alstyne needs to understand that she cannot be critical of the CAO or any staff in an open meeting, and she was being disciplined for that when Mr. Swayze was presenting last time, and then his last report, and then she continued in that same meeting. She continued with those same actions, and I think that's the idea behind this report. That's what I'm reading from it. Any other questions, Councillor Duplessis?
I believe Councillor Van Alstyne was out of order, and you put her in order, but I don't think her comments were violating code of conduct. She mentioned, and I tried to listen to this, I finally got it, the comment about the CAO. Councillor Van Alstyne said she made a vexatious comment about a citizen, and you cut her off at that time. That was very common knowledge. That was a long time after the incident happened. It was in public. It was on Facebook. I believe it was in the newspaper. There's quite a bit about that, so everybody knew about that. That wasn't in camera. Our complaint went in camera, but she didn't mention nothing about the complaint. The second one was certainly as Councillor Dufour mentioned, the video. And if you would have looked into the meetings of June the 25th, you would have noticed, Mr. Swayze, that it was in regular council. We talked about video versus audio, and there was some confusion on what was lawful and what wasn't. And all that was in regular council. And council at that time made a motion before we got a legal opinion, because we aren't exactly in the dark, that audio was illegal unless it was, as Ray said, some higher authority could do that. So I don't believe that was anywhere near out in contravention of a code of conduct. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Swayze, for joining us. If you have nothing further to conclude, we can go on with our consent agenda. Will you be staying for the rest of the meeting or until we get till that?
No, I'll withdraw, Madam Mayor, if you wish.
Okay, that's fine. That would be your choice.
right.
But thank you for presenting and being here to answer questions this evening.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, have a good evening. Okay, so we will go on with our regular consent agenda, and we have a motion moved by Councillor Millett, seconded by Councillor Foster. Be it resolved that items G1 to L2 inclusive contained in Part 1 consent agenda be adopted. So as usual, what I am going to do is I am just going to run through the list of items, and if there's anything that you would like to like me to stop and talk about, you can just wave to me basically, and we'll stop and go through that item. Okay, so under item G, we have the adoption of minutes, and this is the regular meeting of council as of October 13th, 2020. Okay, seeing nothing, we'll go on. There was no board and committee reports, and we had no business arising for board or committees. Okay, so the next item is bylaws and resolutions. We have a regular confirmatory bylaw. And then under reports, we have a public works report, building department report for September, and our Q3 budget variance report. So any questions or comments on any of those reports? Okay, so we've had no questions or comments, so I will call the motion. Councillor Dufour, are you in favor of the motion to pass the consent agenda or adopt the consent agenda?
Okay, you're really breaking up there, but I think I got the gist of it, and I'll say in favor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Duplessis?
In favor.
Councillor Hayden?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Millett?
In favor.
Thank you. And Councillor Van Alstyne?
In favor.
And I am in favor, so this motion has carried. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is under our regular agenda. We have the skating oval for the track and field, and we do have correspondence that comes with that. I'm just going to bring mine up. Okay, so we did receive correspondence that the Lions Club is interested in putting in a skating oval, and this item is just generally up for discussion. So I will open the floor for anybody that would like to comment. Councillor Foster?
Yes, the Lions Club is prepared to put some money towards some equipment and take over all the maintenance of the oval to create a skating surface throughout the winters. And they would just, I think, sitting down and having some direction from council saying, yes, if we like the idea of creating a skating oval, we could open some discussion between staff and some of the senior members of the Lions Club to see what it might take and and bring back something more concrete for either approval or not.
Okay, any other comments? I'm gonna, sorry, I'll make a comment, Ray, and then I'll turn it back to you. I am concerned about the addition of a skating oval. We know that we do not have the full uptake of our rink being used with COVID protocols. We also have the possibility that we won't be having shinny or to the same extent on the outdoor skating pad that we already have this year. So we need to consider what that is going to involve. We see in the Public Works Department report that they already have manpower challenges. So I think if we have to add any additional manpower challenge, like anything additional in Public Works would not be a good thing. As well, there's the idea of buying equipment and spending more money on equipment in this time where we have some ice surface and ice surface time available that's in the community already. So we already offer those services without adding additional services. So that's my concern about this, but we can certainly forward this to staff for additional comments if the majority of council wishes this to go forward at this point in time this year. Councillor Dufour first, and then I'll go to you, Councillor Van Alstyne.
Yeah, I like what you said. It's got, I was actually thinking some of those items, but I was also thinking whether or not, I know there's not much else going on in this town during the winter, and probably this year will be worse because of COVID. I'm just wondering whether or not, even just checking it out to see what the cost may be or whatever, it might be worth having it open. I don't know really. I'm up in the air on this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Van Alstyne?
Yes, Councillor Foster, are you a member of the Lions Club?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Councillor Duplessis?
I would agree with you, Mayor, on your points. I would like to see a costing of this, and maybe more importantly, and you mentioned it, do we have the manpower to do this? And then what manpower would be required to do this? Mr. Yusko mentioned last month it may be difficult. And as you said in the Public Works report we got today for the summer, there's a number of jobs they have to put off. And the other side of the coin, of course, is what Councillor Dufour said. It may be an odd year, and it might be a good idea to do it this year with what's happening. But I think the number one for us is costs and manpower requirements.
Okay, so just some general feedback. We could ask staff for direction, or we could, sorry, not ask for direction. We could provide direction to staff to give us a preliminary analysis of this. Maybe have some conversations with the Lions Club, and they can also bring back anything in terms of what might be involved for COVID protocols, right? Who's going to assume the liability of that when the ice surface is in, and all of the other insurance concerns that might go with that. So we could provide staff direction that says, go investigate this further and bring it back, or we could choose to say not this year. So those are kind of our options right now, and I'll need to get some feedback from council before we make that decision in terms of which way we're going to go. Councillor Hayden?
I think it's worth sending it to town, the people in, lost my words, guys, sorry. It's worth getting the investigation to find out the costs and all of that. I see that we have that letter from the Espanola Lions Club and, asking lots of questions are surrounding all of this. So I think we need to get a little bit more information before we can adequately make a decision one way or the other. It is kind of a catch-22 year. It was quite successful last year and the people really did like it. So, and I do know that we have to be mindful of all of the other things that have been mentioned, absolutely. So I think it's just worth our while to have that investigation done.
Okay. Councillor Duplessis?
I agree fully with Councillor Hayden.
Okay. anybody else in terms of one way or another, in terms of just kill it now or go for additional information? Councillor Mawat.
I think we should go and find out a costing, just for, just in let be aware of what it would involve, because the Lions Club is willing to do a lot of the work themselves as well. So let's see where it goes, and we'll make the decision when all the facts are in.
Okay. So it sounds like, and I'm okay with that idea as well. So that's the majority right there in terms of for direction. Paula, I'm going to ask you, do you want a motion for direction, or can it just be reflected in the minutes that we've asked staff to bring this back to us with a staff report?
I guess it can be, just the direction in the minutes that, consensus of council basically to investigate. And you did name off a number of areas that you wanted staff to consider, so we can put that into the minutes and move forward.
Okay. Is there any other things that council can think of that should be considered in that staff report? Councillor Dufour?
I'm trying to read this at the same time. It would seem that they want to help. Yeah, I was just wondering what the Lions Club was going to do. If we did allow this, what would they actively take care of?
Okay, I don't know whether Councillor Foster can give any insight, but for sure we can ask the town to have that conversation with the Lions Club to look at the delineation of responsibilities. Thank you, Councillor Dufour. Okay, yes, Paula?
So obviously that won't be till at the earliest the last meeting in November, maybe even the beginning of December, depending on when they can meet. Obviously, because this Friday is the cutoff for the next agenda. So just so everybody's aware, it's not going to turn around that quick, but I mean, obviously staff will get moving on it.
Okay, that's fine. I don't think, hopefully you wouldn't have to go in or wouldn't be available to go in before the beginning of December anyways. Hopefully we're not that cold that fast. Okay, so I will say that item is concluded. We'll move on to the next item. Okay, so this is item L2, the recommendation regarding the Integrity Commissioner's report. I will need a mover and a seconder for this item. Councillor Hayden. And a seconder. Councillor Foster. Okay, so the item reads as follows: be it resolved that the compensation paid to Councillor Van Alstyne as a member of council be suspended in an amount equal to 60 days of such compensation commencing with the next pay period. I'll open up the floor for any discussion. Okay, so I would like to make an amendment to this motion. So I would like the amendment to read, instead of commencing with the next pay period, make that a little bit clearer based on our Integrity Commissioner's response, that commencing with the pay period December 2020. So I will need a mover and a seconder to make that amendment to this motion. Okay, so I see Councillor Foster and Councillor Hayden. Okay, so any comment on the amendment? Because that's what we're talking about now, is just the amendment beginning in December 2020. Okay, I had just asked for that that clarification on the amendment because it was very clear from Mr. Swayze's comment that it was at the next regular pay period where Councillor Van Alstyne is receiving a salary. So I will need a vote on the amendment first. And what I am going to do is ask for that vote on the amendment to be a recorded vote. Okay, so just to go through the process with this, what we are voting on right now is the amendment that states beginning in December 2020. It's just a clarification of the wording of Mr. Swayze's intent. Okay, so Councillor Dufour.
Are we putting the horse before the, or are we putting the cart before the horse here? Shouldn't we just get the one item off the table first?
No, so when a motion is amended, what we do is we vote on the amendment to the motion, and that doesn't actually touch the motion yet. We just vote on the clarification of the wording, and then after that, we vote on the motion itself, and the motion itself would be the suspension of pay. So the first vote that I'm taking right now is just the clarification from Mr. Swayze. So instead of the next pay period, I said the pay period beginning December 2020. Okay, so I'm just calling to vote the amendment only. Okay, Councillor Dufour?
I'm not in favor.
Councillor Duplessis?
Against.
Okay, Councillor Hayden?
I'm for it.
Councillor Foster?
For.
Councillor Malott?
Against.
And Councillor Van Alstyne?
Against.
And I am for the amendment. So the amendment has failed. So the original wording of the motion is going to stay. So the motion reads, be it resolved that the compensation paid to Councillor Van Alstyne as a member of council be suspended in an amount equal to 60 days of such compensation commencing with the next pay period. Okay, so any comments on this motion? Okay, so I'm just going to state that Mr. Swayze was hired by this council, was suggested by this council to be our integrity commissioner, and it is his investigation that has resulted in this. We are not discussing the ideas behind what Councillor said, so whether the merits of the video surveillance, we're not discussing any of that. What we're discussing is the fact that this type of of staff should not be made at the council meeting, period. And Mr. Swayze is trying to make that abundantly clear in his report now. And then he states he will continue recommending 60-day suspensions for every incident. So this is the motion that we are voting on. Is there any other comments on that? Okay, so I will ask for that this vote be recorded as well. So I am going to call on Councillor Dufour.
Not in favor.
Okay, Councillor Duplessis.
Against.
Councillor Hayden.
For.
Councillor Foster.
For.
Councillor Malott.
Against.
Councillor Van Alstyne.
Against.
And I am for this motion. This motion has been defeated. Okay, and then the last agenda we moved is motion to adjourn. So I'll need a mover and a seconder to adjourn this meeting. Councillor Hayden. And I need a seconder. Councillor Foster. Okay, be it resolved that the regular meeting of council is hereby adjourned at 7:30 p.m. Councillor Dufour?
In favor?
Thank you. Councillor Duplessis?
In favor.
Councillor Hayden?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Foster?
In favor.
Counselor Malott,
In favor?
Counselor Van Alstyne,
In favor?
and I'm in favor, so that motion is carried. We are hereby adjourned.